Maybe. Yep, they should be able to hear us. All right, JPI warning. If you don't know what that means, everybody, that literally means we're starting. And speaking of JPI, real quick, what's up, everybody? We're going to give a quick little shout out to JPI. He could not be here today. But in general, welcome to this week's episode of the Predcast. That's the name we're sticking with. That's what we're going with, right? And I mean, we got a special guest here with us this week. We're going to go over a couple of different details that were released to us as a community about the early access that's coming up. But let's do quick little introductions before we go too much deeper into everything. If we could, let's go in this specific order. Sund0wn, Med, and then Bearded. Just tell everybody a little bit about yourself, what you're about, and we'll go from there.
What's up, everyone? My name is Sund0wn. I'm a senior gameplay designer over at Omeda Studios. I just joined 5 months ago. So actually before that, I had worked at Epic Games for just under 7 years, splitting time between Paragon and Fortnite. So here to kind of answer some questions, talk about Predecessor, a little bit about my experience, answer these guys' questions, and just kind of vibe out. Like, big fan of the game, big fan of what these guys do. So here to have a good time.
Appreciate it, fam.
So many questions, like,
bro, right? That shit was so professional already. Like, all right, hold on.
We got so many things to go over, like frequently asked questions, stuff like that. But I have questions just to ask you, like, cause like I'm just gonna nerd out here, like, cause I'm a Paragon fan. But again, I'm not the person that nerded out with and knows everybody, all the big players that played all that stuff. So I'm interested for sure. So, but we'll get onto with the rest of it. We'll go on later. Medkit.
Yo, what's up, everyone? I'm Medkit. I make Pred content on YouTube. And I'll be streaming Predecessor when it comes out on the 1st. So, see you on the battlefield, I guess?
It's spicy.
What's going on, everybody? I'm the Bearded Wolverine, your Michigan Wonder, and also Big Ten East champs. Let's go. All right, excited. We beat Ohio, kicked their ass. Any Ohio State fans in chat, let me know, and I'll make fun of you. Other than that, excited for this episode tonight. Windu.
I can't even give you shit about football this week, bro. Like, GG. Like, y'all deserve that shit. GG. I can't even be mad. But what's up, guys? I am Windu, also known as Windu the Mace. I make everything from mobile content, strategy content, and racing content here and there. But as you guys know, well, some of you might know, some of you might be tuning into this channel here for the first time. Essentially, this podcast that we got going on is specifically predecessor oriented. We do compare against other games, other games in the genre. Like, we all know Paragon the Overprime is around the corner. We know that there's other major MOBAs, League of Legends, Smite, etc. So we do our comparisons here and there, but the overall purpose of this podcast is to keep it predecessor oriented. Now, jumping right into it, yo, I'm so thank you for being here, Sund0wn. Let's focus on you for a little bit, bro.
So, what do you want to know? Go ahead. You can ask your questions.
Well, honestly, I'm an audiophile. I see a little MIDI keyboard there on the side. So what's going on? You're into music or something? What's up with that?
So part of the stuff I did over at Fortnite outside of the casting, I did a little bit when it came to some of our music production, mainly helping with some of the lobby tracks that we featured when we did the FNCS and kind of lining up producers for that, as well as the EDM radio station that when you kind of like drive around, Radio Yonder. I did a bunch of the curation for that. So I like to tell people I know enough about music production to know that I actually don't know anything. I know enough so that I'm like, hey, that sounds good, that sounds bad, could I tell you why? Absolutely not. And like, I can't actually make music, but I like to pretend I can, and at least like have the things around and mess around with it for fun, because like I realized I was like only kind of really doing gaming stuff all the time, so having it on the side is there. But truth be told, I haven't touched this thing in a hot minute, so I need to get back and get some more use.
Bro, from the mic, it's from the actual microphone itself that you got, and you got a keyboard on the back. Hey man, I'll give you kudos. I'm an audio guy. That's what I went to school for audio engineers. So at the end of the day, bruh, I'm shocked. I'm shocked for sure. Now,
All right. So
you got a question? Go for it.
You 7 years, or a little less than 7 years, Paragon, then Fortnite. How was that transition as an employee?
It was interesting, only because I got towards the end of Paragon, I got really heavy into the design aspect. And then when we transitioned over to Fortnite, I was doing some design stuff very early on. I think the last design-oriented thing I worked on was the first shot accuracy when that ended up getting implemented. So kind of the first iteration of that. But I just didn't really understand the engine as well because everything I had learned was very specific to Paragon and how Paragon was set up in Unreal Engine. So when I looked at some of the Fortnite stuff, I was like, dude, I have no clue what I'm doing. And I tried really hard and I was trying to teach myself and it just like didn't click as much. So I ended up going back and doing some much more kind of controller based testing. So I did a lot of the initial setup on the Switch and on mobile Fortnite controls when that was very big, and kind of working with the QA teams and the playtest teams to just figure out what ended up feeling best and kind of working on those iterations. And then I popped over and worked on the competitive team for a bit before I started casting, and it was then pretty much like out of design. So definitely transitioned away, and it was definitely going from working on kind of a much more like focused avenue where it's just like, hey, like very much on design, to like there's only a couple people who are really running a bunch of the competitive things there at least at the start for Fortnite, right? So
okay, so now you're here working on a game that we call a Parazombie, or obviously a reiteration of Paragon. So we all love Paragon. So now that was as an employee. Now as a gamer, how was that transition going from something that you obviously enjoyed enough that you came back to work on something again to going to transition from the Paragon to Fortnite? How was that as a gamer?
It was a little interesting for me because at least on my higher end, a lot of my competitive experience, like I played professional / competitive Gears of War for 3 to 4 years. And then a lot of my focus was on StarCraft and then League of Legends into then working at Epic. So I hadn't really had a ton of battle royale experiences, and like I never played H1Z1 or DayZ, and I only played like 1 or 2 games of PUBG before like we really got in the playtesting aspect. But I'm really into kind of like the analytical breaking down and doing that. And for Fortnite, that was just such a broad task as a whole that it kind of nobody was really thinking about the game in that regard, and kind of gave me my initial inroad to like starting the casting in that, because it came down to like, hey, somebody needs to be able to tell these players stories, and who is actually watching all of these games and watching how these guys play and able to like line it all up. And I kind of cheat because I have a partially photographic memory, so I can just kind of like roll VODs and watch these guys play and like attribute a couple like gameplay stats to them. But it's different because obviously MOBAs compared to battle royales, like I'd been very much used to kind of the very confined 4v4, 5v5, like playing against another team, to now all of a sudden it's last man standing / get as many points as efficiently possible in a tournament. So it was interesting, but like as somebody who played a third person shooter, like I feel like I had a natural edge over a lot of other people who didn't play Fortnite, because like all these other battle royales, with the exception of H1Z1, were all very much so like first person and where that was played, and a lot of people like kind of put the clout in that regard. But Fortnite is a third person shooter, and if you know how to play third person shooters, it's kind of like riding a bike in my opinion. So
right. No, I guess I was more meaning I didn't want to like lead the question.
No, you're good.
Like for me, like me going from Paragon, like you take something, a game that I love, you just say, hey, it's being shut down, and I couldn't, once the announcement came out it was being shut down, I couldn't play anymore. I'm like it's, I don't know, it's like, that it's not going to be there, so I just quit playing. So then the next thing I had was this game called Fortnite, and I'm like, okay, I'm playing this, and it just didn't. I went from something I loved to something like I'm only like this. And at that time, like, and I don't know how it was as an employee, but like at the time, it kind of, you had that people were talking about how Fortnite's the reason Paragon died. Fortnite, so it's like you kind of go to it, it's like, man, you just kind of feel weird about it. So I just didn't know if you had that. Obviously, you had a little more inside scoop because you were there, but like, did it give you that feeling, or
I mean, I like, because I had streamed Paragon like the entire time. I like was still playing it. I considered myself to be one of the better jungle players in terms of that regard. Like I could play all the other things, but that's where I've always found a lot of success, at least when I was playing there. I didn't play after like we ended up announcing the shutdown. Like the game meant a ton to me, but also like I've played League since season 2, so it wasn't my first MOBA, so I have no problem going back. I've also played a ton of games that have gotten sunset. Like you're talking to somebody who played Dawngate, who played Nosgoth, who played competitive Gears of War, which got kicked off of the MLG circuit for a while there. So unfortunately or fortunately, like I've seen games be sunset before. So honestly, didn't have too much of an impact other than the fact that like damn, like I really enjoyed like having a 3D MOBA to play, and unfortunately like Smite doesn't really quite scratch that itch for me. Like I love the mythology aspect, I love some of the hero design, and I love watching it, but it's more just like a shifted camera from League in my perspective. And like I watch and play League a ton. Like I still get to like Golden Plat every season, but I watch like every single competitive region, like almost all of their games. I watch all of Worlds just because
Worlds gets spicy, bro.
Dude, there's so much insane depth to that game that it's just fun. And like waking up and like working some EU hours, most of the time like LCK or LPL is like just finishing their matches as I get on, so I can like catch the very tail end and all the highlights. So real nice.
You know what I'm actually curious about, and just tying in Medkit here, since he got Shies and Sundowns on here. No, so I was in a chat earlier where Medkit was wondering, he's like, yo, how do you get into this game development world, right? So I'm actually curious, how did you get into it, and what advice could you provide people that are trying to get into this game dev world that seems kind of like, like you have to take a huge leap sort of vibe?
Well, one, you do kind of have to take a little bit of a leap, but also I feel like there's just so much in games and so much opportunity that's there that you can really find out what you want to do. But my advice is the same as if you want to get into content creation, or you want to be an athlete, or whatever you want to learn a trade or whatever, just start doing it, right? Just like look up the thing that you want to do. If you want to be social media, make your own channel, start managing it, and see if you can grow a channel. If you really want to get into design, like download Unreal Engine, download Unity. Like I'll chill for Unreal Engine forever. I think it's like far superior. I haven't done anything in Unity. But like I love UE. Just start doing it. Like you can look at some of the games you're interested in, go to the career page and see what the qualifications for. For me, I saw somebody post a job opportunity. I went and I looked at it and I was like, I meet all the qualifications for this. It was posted by somebody I used to play Gears of War with back in the day. We used to like scrim and practice against each other all the time. I had a pretty good rapport with them, and I ended up writing out the opportunity and turned it into a career. So,
bro, that's awesome. I gotta say, awesome. I'm jealous on that side. But man, I will say though, when I heard that you got added to the game, to Predecessor, I was shocked. I was surprised. Like I was like, oh shit, okay, look at Predecessor pulling some epic staff over their way. Okay, I see you guys. Now,
go ahead.
Oh, my bad. I was just gonna say, like, how do you think your impact on the game and your experience throughout it has been?
Honestly, I think the team here has done such an amazing job that it's really easy to just come in and be able to be a foil for what they're already doing. Like when I first played the game, I think it was the very first playtest, I was like, this is kind of whatever. And then the second playtest, I was like, holy shit, the core of this game is brilliant. Like this is really, really, really good. And I kind of just kept an eye on it as they were going through. And when I ended up coming all the way over, like I said, I've only been here for 5 months. It was right after the April playtest and the success that ended up coming with that. And I just think being able to impart the experience I have just on both the Paragon journey and being and operating when it comes to Fortnite has been invaluable. But also, like, these guys are really good at their jobs. Like, even though they've been doing this for a very long time, the team has been at it for 4+ years now at this point. So the things that they've been able to learn on their own, it makes having the conversation so easy. And I think the benefit is too, like when you look at Paragon initially, like Paragon was Epic's first MOBA. It was a studio that was mainly making shooters, right? Like the core of every single person at Omega is a hardcore MOBA player. Like every single person who's there, like they love Paragon. They like literally bled the game and going through that. So I think that provides a really good basis to then just building a solid foundation to make the gameplay really good. And then obviously knowing that like we're gonna want everything else because like we want that as gamers too, right?
Right.
Ooh, that's a good point. The foundation and the overall staff, when you just sit there and even look at one person in Predecessor, it's like, hey man, y'all got some pretty fucking heavy hitters on that team. Like, there's no way around that one.
Dude, some of our company playtests are sweaty as hell. I was like, guys, calm down for a little bit. I'm like, I'm trying to get some controller testing in, like plugged it in, and I'm like, can I please just record one game where I don't get slaughtered by Shanks? Like, leave me alone.
Hey, we may or may not have found out. Trust. So, real quick, I was going to say, is there any questions that you guys want to ask Sund0wn before we go forward, specifically?
Well, I wanted to point out with the conversation we just had is for them to pull you from Epic, right? And I don't know how the hiring transition happened. I don't know if they reached out to you, you reached out to them. Either way, it doesn't matter how that works. For them to pull you from Epic, Epic, it's AAA company, like you've been there for over almost 7 years. I think that says a lot to the community. Like that should say a lot to community. Like that like for him to be like, hey, I'm gonna leave something that I know like that's gonna be here. Like, you know, in 5 years, Epic's still gonna be around, right? To come to a company that hasn't even made a game yet, like the game's there, it's playable, but it's not, early access hasn't been released yet. The full game hasn't been released yet. For him to leave them and come here to say, hey, I think that says a lot for where he feels that this company is, because he's been on the inside. He knows what the company's doing. He can see what they're doing. We're only able to see a video they're posting. Hey, look at Crunch. Hey, look at this. Or we'll able to do a stress test. We see glimpses. He's able to see the whole thing. And for him to leave Epic and come here, I think that says a lot about what Omega Studios is.
It's a really good point. Medkit, you want to say something?
Yeah. So, in your opinion, what do you have to say about the whole console race thing? Because you know how overprime and pred, like everyone says that whoever gets the console first gets that bag. What can you say about that?
I think it also comes down to how the experience ends up being on console and like what consoles you end up getting to and when, right? Because like, yes, you can get to a PlayStation 5, but Sony has put out just like how many PlayStation 5s are out there. And if you only have a PlayStation 5 in the market, like there really aren't a ton of people out there who can get it. So your actual share of users who go through is kind of like whatever. I think the biggest thing is just a core experience going through, and one thing that we've been super clear about is you only really get an opportunity to make that first impression once. And I think when we do end up going out to consoles and when it is playable, we want it to be really solid, and not even just how a controller ends up feeling, but the gameplay itself needs to be able to go through, like the graphics need to be able to transition. And I think obviously like when you have the most updated next gen stuff, it's going to look really nice and it's going to be able to go through, but it's like ensuring we hit all of that and that's up to par with what's going on PC. But again, the benefit of working in Unreal and kind of why I tend to just shill the hell out of Epic in that regard is it's pretty easy to do the side-by-side stuff. Like it's like I don't want to say it's like game dev as a whole is really, really, really hard. But luckily doing side-by-side stuff in Unreal is comparatively a lot easier. So hopefully just trying to continue, like once we get that core foundation there, we just keep putting it out. But also like in terms of like, I'll come out and say this, like I think people play up the OP versus pred thing a little bit too much, like especially on the game dev side. Like everybody only wishes success for each other. Like there's no rivalry, there's no ill will when it comes to any of that stuff. Like I think it's super clear that they're aiming to be like Netmarble obviously puts a lot more of their budget advertising in the Eastern market, and I think there's absolutely space for both games to end up existing, and that's like that's the stance I end up sitting in. And like anytime I see people like going back and forth, I'm like, why? Like they're both solid games. Like if you want to see the Paragon heroes back and recreate them and play them, and you want like a certain vibe, like go play one of those.
Yeah, and
would you say like you and the dev team, would you say you guys are comfortable with the state of controller support and aim assist the way it is? Like on December 1st, what are we expecting?
I like where it's at. I've done a ton of testing on it. I think it's really solid. There's the only thing to be aware of that we'll call out, and we'll put out like a little thing. There's some configuration things if you're going through Steam directly, just where like some of the newer like PS5 DualShocks, like you have to just like enable a specific thing, like doing it through the Steam config won't work. Like you literally just have to plug it in natively. But in terms of just plug, go, play, I think really solid, really intuitive. Like big thing when it comes down to aim assist is I don't think aim assist feels good when it's doing everything for you. And going through and balancing those numbers, I think it's just enough there to make it accessible to the game pace that Predecessor is at. But honestly, you will almost never notice its existence unless maybe you're like right on top of somebody and then there's like a little bit of pull. But even then, like, we're going to be taking feedback the entire time. I'll be looking at all the gameplay, looking what people are saying, and just feel free to hit me up because we're going to continue to iterate throughout the process as we continue going to consoles. So I'm really happy with it, and I will always encourage, like, if people want to check it out, just plug in a controller.
Awesome. Sounds good, man.
Shout out to Huddy in the chat. He brings up a great point. You can't go to console and end up being like Cyberpunk, where it doesn't even run on some consoles.
Exactly.
You got me?
You got to consider.
Well, you also can't be like Cyberpunk and delay, for 40 years. So,
right.
They had as well. Over exaggeration on purpose, guys. I know it wasn't 40 years.
They got stick from both ends, man. I feel bad for them. Because honestly, I enjoyed that. As somebody who doesn't play single player games, my first playthrough of Cyberpunk, I played through the entire thing, sunk like 60 hours into it, and I was like, that was a fun experience. Apparently, it's much better now, though. So
I didn't even try it, but but I will say though, like it's interesting to hear you talk about the aim assist, and that's a great question that you asked, by the way, Medkit, because I was literally sitting here, I was like, is aim assist going to be meta? Is it going to be one of those things that I was like, I might as well fucking plug in a controller, bro. Fucking carries cake on controller. What do you mean? So I like hearing the fact that it's kind of like a toned down version of aim assist, right? Like, you're still going to need the overall skill, not as crazy as some of these other games, hashtag Call of Duty. But I'm excited for that, because surprisingly, and I still find this shocking so late into the race, so to speak, right? Like, Predecessor's been in progress for a while. There's still a lot of fucking people that are like, controller ride or die, bro. People bought a $2,000-$3,000 PC and they're like, but does it got controller though? Can I plug it in? And I all respect.
First MOBA, like, if Paragon was your first MOBA and you played it on controller, like, if people don't want to go, and the other thing is, like, what game do you want to then go? Like, what's your equivalent to learn? Like, how do you go practice in that regard? Like,
Smite hashtag sad.
That's when I first got my PC. Like, I literally got one of these for this. Like,
oh well, not that.
And I still use it. Like, I don't use a keyboard.
I mean, yeah, to each his own. I struggle bust for years, bro. I mean, what he's using kind of is. It's basically a keyboard with a joystick. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I gotta say, man, I'm excited for this early access that's coming around the corner, and I want to ask each one of you here, what are you guys expecting people's reactions are going to be in this early access? Like, how do you think people will react if you guys want to go in the same order that we introduce ourselves?
I just hope people have fun playing the game. I think it's been so long, and every time we've seen the game just be going out, like, honestly, I feel like a kid before Christmas. The studio we took off from Thursday through today, so we'll be back in tomorrow. And after like 1 or 2 days off, like, my skin started to itch, and I was just like, hey, you guys got any of those games? Like, anybody want to talk about something? Like, I'm gonna load up the engine, look at it. Like, I just want the game to be out there. I want people to be able to play it, have fun, like, create all the content, and then just give us their feedback. Like, let us know the things they like, let us know the things they want to see more of. Because honestly, I do think we've gotten that really solid foundation where the game is just fun. And then we're just going to be cranking on adding content, man. We're going to be cranking on adding more heroes, improving on your guys' feedback, iterating on the control scheme, iterating on the map, iterating on the items. Like, we're just going to be pumping content because once the game is live, like, we just got to keep rolling it, right?
True. Medkit?
He's going to feel bad for having the guy working on his day off. But then he's sitting there, he's itching to want to talk about stuff. So actually, we're doing him a favor right now.
I'm pumped. That's what I'm saying.
Lit. Medkit, what do you think, bro?
I really just want people to try it, play it a couple times, and just try it out. Form your own opinions. Stop listening to others. Really, just try it out. You can always refund it anyway if you think the $10 isn't worth it, whatever. But I personally can't wait. I'm getting that legendary pack I'm like the number one Pred fanboy here.
I can't, bro.
But I just can't wait. I want everyone to just try it out. It looks super fluid, right? If you miss Paragon, like the feel, Predecessor not only got that feel, but I think they did an even better job, because when I saw the stress test, I didn't play a stress test before that. I played the stress test and I was like, holy shit, this feels like Paragon. And then a couple of weeks ago, I didn't know how this was possible, but I saw the videos for Kalari, for Decker, and I'm looking at it. I'm just like, how is this even possible? The game looks even better. Like, bruh. And that's all I can say is just try it out, guys. And have fun.
Drew? Bearded?
I think the people who played PTO are gonna come here, they're gonna play this, and they're gonna realize how much smoother this is in comparison to PTO, and how the gameplay loop is actually more refined than PTO, and they're gonna be impressed. That's my thought.
Good choice of words.
Pay time off.
Oh, I was like, pay time off. What the fuck? Never mind. Okay, I get what you're saying. But yeah, I'll be honest, man. I think a lot of people are gonna be surprised, right? Whether it's a good surprise or not, I guess that really depends on the person, right? Because it is a very, very different game than, for example, Paragon the Overprime. It's a very different game than Smite, League of Legends, etc. And even people that have never tried Predecessor before are hearing about Predecessor. They try one of these other games and they're like, well, hold on, did you say Predecessor? What the hell is that? Like, where can I find that? And they start looking at videos and stuff and they're like, yeah, I want to try this. I heard that this gameplay is smooth. And we saw a video that we kind of went over last week of Robbie, Ace, going over how gameplay has been the absolute focus of this whole, of the progress in its own, right? Whether it was migrating over towards Unreal Engine 5, whether it was certain decisions. And we actually had a couple people asking in the chat, and worth asking, because Sund0wn gave a great explanation to this in a voice chat that I was in the other day. But a lot of people have been asking is like, what? They don't understand choices. Like, why is there not a store? They don't understand the logic behind it. Do you have a quick, brief explanation that you could kind of just say from your own take as to why it makes sense?
I would say just one of the biggest things is just any single person who would have spent time working on something that like goes in the store and setting up any of that to sell is then something that isn't gameplay related. And like, while like, yes, we have been scaling it up, at its very core for all of us, like if the game is not fun and that foundation is not good and we're not able to build off of something where you just want to queue back up with the cast of heroes you end up having in there, then all of the frills and the added bonuses and everything else, like while they're nice,
they don't fix the core issue.
They're not going to make you queue. They're only going to make you queue back up so many times, right? And while we know, like, yes, absolutely, like skins are going to end up going in. Like, there's going to be some kind of, I know Blood, when he was talking about it on Strangers Cast, was talking about like adding in a tertiary system and being able to expand on what we already have for the item system, and what does competitive and ranked and all of that end up looking like. And like, yes, you could end up just slapping in some of those things and be like, oh, it's adding to it and going through. But at the end of the day, like, there's kind of a minimum level of quality bar that we consider to be like, hey, this is where we want it to be at, and we want to hit that for gameplay first, and then we hit it for everything else. So when we do end up having a ranked or a competitive mode, you should feel very confident about when you're queuing up with that you will be getting meaningful rewards, that there is some kind of visual progression that ends up coming with it, and you are going against opponents who are within your same skill tier. But in order to then get to that point, we're testing all of our MMR, all of our back system with the general populace, and we want people to be getting in the game and giving us feedback. So it's just not splitting the player queues, putting everybody into that same pool, and making sure that we can just roll games for as long as possible and get you guys in, enjoying that, and knowing that, like, hey, if you're having a positive experience in there, give us your feedback and we'll keep iterating it. And then down the line, as we said, all of those features that everyone wants and are standard standard in games and modernity, they're going to be there eventually. It's just we had to get the bare minimum set up where it's fun, people play and go through, and then we'll add in everything else.
So you're saying feedback. Is Discord the only place that they're going to be able to give feedback to you guys, or is there other areas? Is there going to be feedback in game that they'll be able to drop feedback for you guys, or do they have to? Is it only Discord?
Currently, right now, I believe there is just like a bug report that's in there, but I think that you can also drop some feedback in there, which could end up being expanded down the line. I'm not sure what the end up process is for that now, but then also, as you've seen in other games, it's like doing UX surveys, right? So like if you play League or TFT after you've played like a certain number of matches, a UX survey will pop up, or like Fortnite will do the same thing where after you play like 3 matches, there'll be like a little pop-up that comes through. That's what I'm talking about, like some of those expanded systems down the line where it's just like, oh, like after you played X number of matches, something will end up coming through. That's just part of expanding UX design and getting it in, right? Perfect. So that'll be there eventually. But for immediate feedback, I'm telling you, like, we look at everything. So yeah, like Discord is good, but also like don't be afraid to post things on the subreddit. Don't be afraid to post things on Twitter, like tag people, go on that. Don't be afraid, like hop into people's DMs. Like if you're content creators, you have ways of reaching out to us. You can tag us on things as well, but just let us know. We'll take a look at it. Like we want to, like if there's something you think is broken, like we'll take a look and we'll try and fix it as soon as possible.
Perfect.
I mean, I will say that even just your description 2 questions ago gets me excited, because one of my biggest concerns was, okay, so when Predecessor hits early access, what the fuck's gonna happen? Are we gonna get just like that 1 hero a month and that's it? You know, like what's the whole mindset gonna be behind it? And you mentioned it a few minutes ago. It's like, hey, like now that the game is going to be a live service game, so to speak, right? Now you guys can actually focus and start ramping up content and, you know, just working on other features, working on, you know, perfecting the matchmaking. You can work on, you know, who knows, future game modes down the road once everything is refined, player base comes in, and etc. Now, worth mentioning for everybody watching and listening, the early access is said to be somewhere in the range of 6 months to a year. Is a time frame that they've given us. We do know that at least they have 5 more heroes coming, and we do get 1 hero per month. Now, how long that goes on, I guess it's really up to the community, up to Predecessor, if they feel like they want to add more heroes or do more stuff and, you know, things like that. Somebody in the chat.
More heroes.
I'm not gonna stop you.
Big thing. Like I'm gonna tell you, like one of my biggest motivations from playing League, like back when I was in college and getting into MOBAs and all that, is like I want to make MOBA characters, man. So like honestly, this is something where it's a little bit of like surreal dream come true aspect to me. But like I promise you, we're gonna keep pumping those heroes out as fast as we can because we want them just as much as you guys do.
I want to play a little devil's advocate with you though in that situation. The like one thing that keeps me from playing League, well, besides it being top down and clicky all the time, that's the main reason, I guess, but is the amount of heroes that they have. That it literally is so like daunting to me. Like I don't know, like I look at the heroes, like for me to go into a game, like I can go into a game of Predecessor and I can understand who I'm going against. I understand their kit. I understand how to counter, right? But if you give me like, all right, now there's 300 heroes, like okay, they're going, who's this? What do they do? Like now I don't know how to counter this person. Like it's just so like crazy to go in. So the more heroes you have, the more it will be harder for these non-Paragon fans. You're going to get people who haven't played Paragon. You're going to get people who didn't play Fault. You're going to get people who didn't play PTO. You're going to get people who didn't play the Predecessor stress test. They come into this game and they're going to play and they're like, okay. And they're not going to understand the kits because they don't know who they're going against. So the more heroes you have, the harder it's going to be for them to understand what's going on.
I do feel like
the number of 300. I think that's the more daunting number. Obviously, I get it. I'm just saying there's that situation that could be a problem there.
I do feel like that's the nature of the beast, though, right? Because think of it this way. I think it really comes down to the fact that you have a small core base of heroes, and just like we are right now, like the game isn't even released to early access yet, and we're already sitting here, bro. What's the next hero? Like, come on. Like the majority of people haven't even tried it. I can't with you, bro. That's what y'all think? Okay.
It was answered in the freak. Did you read the frequently asked question?
I did. Did you read it? What do you mean?
Countess is guaranteed to be the next one.
Guaranteed to be the very, very next one.
Out of the 5, You have Countess and Huntress is guaranteed in those 5 too.
Yes.
3 of them are only that we don't know who 3 of them are. But Countess is guaranteed
Speculate. How can you introduce Huntress, talk about who she hunts, and not introduce Countess first?
Well, yeah, the first, but she could have been 5th and Countess could have been 4th.
Yeah.
You get me? That doesn't necessarily, like, I when I read through it, I didn't read it and I was like, immediately, she has to be the next one. I just know she goes before. Anyway.
I think Countess has to be before Huntress, but
agreed.
What he's saying. If Huntress is 5, Countess is before. That's still
and she's still before. And you can still release other heroes, is what I was saying. But no, I totally get your point, Bearded, and it's a very valid point as to the fact that it can be overwhelming. I think that's where arguably the core audience in the beginning, like people that have played League 5 years ago, feel goated in League. You get what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
Like if you played League 5 years ago, you see a new champ and in your mind, it's just, there's one new champ. That's it. I already know the rest. You get what I'm saying? But if you're brand new to League, you're going to go in there and be like, who the fuck is Misfortune? Like it's a learning curve by all means, but I think that's all MOBAs. I think eventually especially when we see the creativity out of Predecessor and stuff like that, like we're going to see so many different varying kits. We're going to see so many different styles, art, like the actual art for the character models and everything. I'm excited because I don't know if you guys noticed. I'm kind of happy that Predecessor's choices as far as which characters to include, they haven't shied away from these big, massive fucking characters that take up a whole fucking lane or like that are in a jungle path and be like, hey, put a Richter, a Crunch, and Rampage side by side in the middle of a jungle path. Hey man, shit could get tricky. You're asking for bugs to happen. You get what I'm saying? Especially with our experience that we've been through over the past couple of years. So I quite enjoy that they went down that path, and I'm actually looking forward to other heroes that they implement because it shows that they're not necessarily afraid of tackling certain heroes. They're just thinking about what next hero would be good for the gameplay, what next hero would be good not only competitively but aesthetically as well. Like at the end of the day, if they add a hero, how much impact will that have into the game? And they're trying to maximize that. So
and the current
I'll give them credit. Yeah. Now,
is that taken into? Are you guys? I mean, answer what you can. If you can't, let us know. Right. When you guys are bringing in new heroes, right? Well, you guys already know who the next 5 are. I understand that, right? But we're looking for the 5 after that, right? Let's talk into the future here. When you guys are talking about bringing the next 5, are you looking at like what's needed in like, let's say, hey, we only have. What if we look at the roster? What you have 3 ADCs, if I'm correct, right? So let's say we're lacking in ADCs, but meta says that we need something else. How are you guys balancing that when you guys are looking at bringing in new heroes?
I think one of the biggest things is that recognizing which knobs we end up having to turn. But when it comes to heroes, like all things end up being considered. Like it comes down to, hey, how popular were they in Paragon? How easy are the assets to work with? Like how do they fit with our current roster? What do we have available with them? Did we just release a similar hero in a similar role? How many heroes are in that role? Like we kind of have to juggle all of those things to figure out where the best impact is going to be. But again, now that like we've kind of been able to line that out, I think one of the biggest things to consider too is like working into a backlog. So as you noted, like, yeah, we pretty much kind of know who those first 5 are, and we have a general good idea of kind of like who the next 5 are and working after that fact. But it's making sure that like, hey, we can get in there and actually get all of that stuff developed, get the animation going, get the sound going. Because again, we talk about kind of this minimum quality bar and us pumping out heroes every month. And that isn't, hey, we're starting a hero now and we're working and at the end of the month we're releasing it. No, that's us starting a hero 6 months ahead of time. So we have it and we're going and we're in the dev cycle and we're able to kind of develop these heroes side by side. And that's kind of a big part of it. And as you're able to seed it out. But again, you get into EA, right? You end up getting all of these heroes. You own those heroes for good. And if you get it in the first 10 weeks, you're basically spending 50 cents for each one of those like 25 heroes that come through, a little cheaper than that, and ensuring that we kind of like have that super high quality bar on each one of them. If you look at the other games and what the similar price points are for newer players, that's really, really, really solid, and kind of like how I look at it in that regard. But then also kind of going back to just the raw number count, and you mentioning it as that just being the nature of the beast. League is 162 champions, Dota's at 123 heroes, and Smite is at 123 gods, which I don't know when Smite got up to 123. That's nuts. But
they've been added like one every 2 to 3 months for a good minute there.
All right, and I mean, like, I when I looked at that number, I kind of did a double take, because again, like, I went through and did a case study, and like, I at least know all of the Smite gods and know their abilities and like how they go through. But it's because I sat there and spent 3 weeks literally going through 4 or 5 a day and just like taking notes down and being like, hey, this hero does this god does this. If I saw them in game and I knew what they were doing, would I immediately recognize it? Probably not. But if I go and like watch a SPL match, right, I can see 5-on-5 and I can go and see like, these 5 heroes, I can look them up real quick. I can understand how the game is generally going to play out, right? And I'd like to kind of have as much knowledge as I can about each one of those. But also Dota is just, at this point, Dota's just damn near impossible to watch outside of TI, because the game's so freaking complicated.
Right, Dota's rough in general, right? If anybody's ever tried to play Dota, yeah, good luck making it past the tutorial. I'm gonna be real with you.
Their tutorial now, though, is fantastic. They redid it recently, so I will say, if you are going to end up attempting to pick up Dota, now is probably the most accessible it's ever been. But the game is also just, dude, that game is a lot. As soon as you had to like know the different turn speeds of each one of the individual heroes, I was like, I'm good. I'm like, I hung that one up after 20 hours. I'm like, I'm fine, thanks. I tried.
Yeah, it's still clicky, and I want nothing to do with it. That's my biggest thing with it. You know, I'm a console gamer, right? I built a PC for these pair of zombies. That's it. Like, so it got me over here on mouse and keyboard.
Fair enough.
But I played League of Legends I played like 6 games of it. I'm like, yeah, no, this isn't for me. And I also went again. It's crazy to be brand new League of Legends, and how many Smurfs you go up against was insane. How often that happened. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, I can't even go up against, like, put me against bots or something. Like, yeah, it was bad. I had a question. I forgot about it. So if I'm gonna go ahead. I'll ask mine.
Go ahead, make it.
So, what was the decision behind revealing Crunch out of nowhere too?
I mean, we kind of had him in our back pocket for a while. I think one of the biggest things is Crunch likes to punch. And it's like, if you do him well, right, and you're able to, like, it was the same thing when he was released in Paragon. Like, he's just kind of a little bit of a polarizing character where everyone's like, oh, it's Crunch, like, you almost forget he exists. And then it's just like, wait, this robot's amazing. And I'm a huge fan of him. I think if you watch the gameplay, the highlight video that ended up going out, he plays just as smooth as he looks. The anim cancels are really good. As some people have ended up kind of looking at, he does have some mixed scaling in there as well. So pretty much like 50-50 scaling going through. So you can build some of the physical damage items. You can build some magic damage items. And granted, he still ends up putting out mostly physical damage, but you have a pretty versatile build path. So I think he's one of the prime examples of just being able to show off the versatility of the item system. And I'm really excited to see what people can do.
I'm actually curious about, well, first of all, I can't wait to play Crunch, just to kind of throw that out there real quick. Now, I'm actually curious about third-party websites. Now, have you guys been working with any third-party websites that you can tell us that might be ready, or will third-party websites have the API necessary to start kind of doing their own thing? Like, let's say on early access or moving forward, for example?
I have no idea.
Heard.
Yeah, just mainly on the gameplay side for me. I will just say, like, from a personal perspective, ideally, I want as much in client as possible. Like, give me, like, as soon as we have the ability to, like, I want the damage charts, I want win rates, like, I want all of that info for us to be able to just have it in client and be able to go through there. But if people want to do third-party stuff, like, at least me personally, like, I don't have an issue with it, because, like, I love, like, I'm a stats geek. Like, I constantly have League of Graphs or just TFT meta, like like all of those random websites that show you just like, hey, here's the absolute min max and that type of stuff. But also like it's not something I touch, so that's just my personal opinion on that.
I mean, fair. I will say though, it is kind of refreshing to see that you actually want, at least you personally, you want to keep as much in the game as possible, right? I do see, I mean, we've seen in general throughout history, a lot of games try to take like the lazy way out, and they're like, yeah, you know what? They'll probably just make a wiki page for it or whatever. Like, why are we gonna bother? But it is a nice quality of life detail whenever there's like a glossary and they're explaining to you like, hey, what the fuck does gank mean? And it's just the simplest of things, right? And if you ever have to add an obstacle for somebody else, that an extra step where they got to find that information, that can easily cause a disconnect. So GG on that one.
Speaking of quality of life, I remembered my question. In your opinion, Sundown, I get it. Like, there's things that you as a company are working on, but if your opinion, out of the things that are not going to be there for early access, like we know the shop's not going to be there, we know rank mode's not going to be there, all that stuff. What are the things? What is the number one thing that you want as a gamer to be put into the game that's not there?
I've just said more heroes. Like for me, it's just more replayability. Like I think the core loop is really good where if assuming the MMR does everything it does, and based off of our tests it looks pretty solid, we put a lot of effort towards it, you should, after around 5 to 10 games, if you're just queuing by yourself and going through, end up into a fairly decent bracket where you're seeing some fairly skill representative games. Obviously it's probably going to take like a little bit longer to shake all the way out. And there's always things that can end up going through and might need adjustment. But I just want more content. Like I think the core loop of the game is really, really, really fun. I think that the more people start to engage with the item system as a whole and how it pertains to building reactively to what other people are doing into the game state, is going to end up being like where the real depth of the game comes through. Because like, yeah, we have a ton of heroes, and each time we have a decent number of heroes, and each time we add one, that's going to like change all of the hero to hero interactions, and there's going to be certain counters and new team comps that end up cropping up. But I think the game really starts to play when you get into that like 3 to 4 item range, when people are starting to build kind of like their flavor items. And I think once you get to like the absolute highest level, or people just like get a style or things that work for them, you're gonna start just having a lot more fun with the game.
Okay. And I can see that too, because I think for me anyways, like I'm a casual competitive gamer. Like I play like I'm playing to win, but I'm not a guy that can just go to a tournament and just like play in a tournament. I'm bronze for life for sure. But it is what it is. But like the last couple stress tests when I'm playing, like I grab items that I feel like are going to be good on my character. I've yet to play a game, because it hasn't been out long enough, I have yet to grab items to counter build. So that's going to even add a little more to it as well. So I completely understand what you're saying.
You mean you don't highlight the crit icon and just randomly pick an item?
Don't you tell people how I build medkit. You better chill the fuck out.
I highlight lifesteal.
ADC main, pick one, and you're good to go.
Well, actually, since we're on the subject, very interesting. So a lot of people have been talking about this new UI, like this new refined UI that came out, and towards the bottom corner, you see what looks like 3 actives, and then you see 5 items standing on the side. Now, with specifically Crunch in mind, since, you know, he's the newest hero announced and etc., probably a lot of people are going to be trying him out, and anybody that's played Crunch in the past, you got to be on point with those combos, you got to be on point with your mechanics to make them shine. Do you think that this specific UI with the 3 items and stuff, like in general for everybody here, do you guys think that this is probably going to make it a little bit easier for players to handle? Like, you just worrying about certain actives and stuff like that? Like, what do you guys think about that?
I mean, I hope it should be relatively straightforward. I think one of the biggest things is remember, people min-maxing on their crest and how to use it when it is evolved and using it effectively is going to end up being important, because it is a really like play style defining moment, and there's a lot of things you can end up doing with it. There's some that have super short cooldowns and you can use them almost every single fight. There's some that have really long ass cooldowns, and if you are popping it just out of nowhere, you're going to be sitting there and being like, yeah, well, I don't have that for the next fight, and I needed that. So it's just kind of being just aware of that and kind of playing to the strengths that come with it. And again, I know Blood talked a little bit about the active items, and he covered a solid amount of it, but trying to balance around people utilizing active items and having like 4 different active items in the power effect makes it really difficult on just like an individual player to player level, just because hitting all those buttons and kind of rolling your face, but then also rolling all of your champion skills on top of them. Like, yes, there's some MMO players who do that incredibly well, and there's some league supports who do it incredibly well, but accommodating for that generally means that the active effects have to be less fun or less impactful, because then everybody has access to them. When you end up limiting it to a single slot, then you get some really fun actives that can end up being put in there, and you can allocate some serious power to it, because it's like, hey, this is your cornerstone part, and you can end up either building an entire build around like, hey, evolving that out and getting it there, which I think some heroes do incredibly well, and then others just use it as an extra augment on top of it, where it's just like, hey, this really enables me to just keep doing the things I'm already doing well. It's just a solid power spike.
And I will say also that a lot of people have been very curious about onboarding, right? New players getting the hang of it. But I don't think a lot of people have realized that even looking at some of the gameplay, little things like that, like, hey, you know what? We're going to limit the amount of actives. We're going to give everybody a potion, for example. You get to choose your starter item / active, etc. Like, all those things are impactful, but it's almost like you guys are making the game easier to play on the foundation, like as far as, you know, like last hitting with minions and stuff like that, like just certain actual design choices that make it easier to just pick up and play, as opposed to hardcore worrying about a tutorial and stuff like that.
So I would say one of the biggest things is it's designing with accessibility in mind, but not necessarily having it be the end all be all, right? So I think Blood, when talking about the minion execute, did a fantastic example, because there is very, very, very few examples where it actually ends up coming into play. Like for 90% of characters, you can actually last hit it before the window ends up being there, with some very small exceptions. But by having the lever in there and being able to work with it, we can still end up fine-tuning where the adjustment is. So as long as you guys trust us that the core basis is like, hey, we still want last hitting to be a skill, like having that lever in there means we can kind of raise up the little bit of floor there in the frustrating moments where maybe you stack one too many range creeps in a cannon and all of a sudden you literally can't last hit a single creep in your wave. We end up fixing some of those more like frustrating outliers, and all of a sudden now people end up actually having access to the gold and they're able to buy it, but the best players are still able to put up a 80 to 100 CS gap and can get like a 2-item lead over their opponent because they can still outlast hit, out trade them. I think same thing goes with the crest parts, whereas it's like, hey, you're going through and you're playing with your crest, and if you're just doing the normal things, yes, it will end up evolving. If you're min-maxing it and trading in effective ways and actually working around it, you're going to get it a little bit earlier, and then if you're using that cooldown, when you do end up having those advantages, like you're able to create the difference. I think it's one of the core tenets of League's game design is easy to play but difficult to master, and it's kind of hitting the floor where like even if you are just a trash player and you pick up the game for the first time, you have no clue what MOBAs are, and those people do it. Like you see an ad, the game looks fun, you might have no clue what else is going on, right?
So I did at Paragon.
Right, and yeah, some companies do fantastic job with their marketing. You go in and you play, right, and you just get shitstorms for the entire time. Like
I had no clue what a
you
gank
have
was.
no clue. Yeah,
Didn't know what a ward was. Didn't know what a
running
gank was.
Straight forward. You don't know what creeps are. You don't know any of that. But at the absolute bare minimum, if the thing turns to red and you hit it, and there's enough passive gold, and you end up getting a crest, and you go through and you play the game, and you end up getting maybe an item, you have auto buy going through, and your crest ends up evolving, you'll still get enough to interact with the systems. Where if it wasn't a complete negative experience, you'd be like, all right, well, I got to press my item that one time and it was pretty cool, and I got a little bit more powerful, and we'll see how it goes. And then you add in more onboarding and all that. But if at that very core experience, that first time you load in, no amount of onboarding is going to save it from just being, if it's just bad, right? As you've seen with, there's some games where I've played and I've just been like, nope, I'm good. I've gotten out just right after the fact. There's no amount of saving it, right? So I think I know that was a little bit of a long-winded spiel in that regard, but down to its core, it's just really about like ensuring that if you pick up the game and you play it, you should be able to have a pretty decent time. But also, like, if you're going against somebody who's really good and knows what's going on, you're probably going to get stomped the first couple of times, because that's a MOBA. That's going to happen. Hopefully within our system, we're able to shake that out relatively quickly and get people to where they need to be.
All right. Question from, I'm sorry, I'm going to probably say the name wrong, but Raja23. They want to know if you guys are going to do something like Hero of the Storm, and the plan to have different maps with potentially different wind conditions. Like, obviously, this is future stuff, but like, any idea with that?
I mean, you've seen in like League of Legends has ARAM, Smite has Joust, those arena type game modes when a game ends up being a lot more popular. I always go back to like League as my prime example, as something I played for over a decade at this point. I played the shit out of Dominion. I don't know, that's a little bit of a throwback. It's been canceled for like 5 years now at this point, but that was their like,
you know about Twisted Tree Line,
like quick arena game mode. And I loved that thing. It was like you could bank on it 15 minutes in, out, didn't matter what else, play whatever champion, just warm up, have fun. You could play your one trick and just like try out some new combos or try a different build. I thought it was a blast. I think one of the biggest things to note just right now is we want to prioritize queue health and getting people into games, right? Like, it doesn't matter if we have like 6 different maps that all play super well, right? If you're then sitting for 10 to 15 minutes waiting into a game, right? Like, we want to be getting you guys in the game. We want you to be able to play it and just having a good time. I also apologize if you hear the fire engine right now. I'm not sure how good.
You're good, bro.
Your house isn't on fire? We're okay.
No. I just have a fire station directly behind me. So
Plus, that's an SM7B. That's the.
I was about to say he's got the Mac Daddy of dynamic microphones, right? He's okay.
Get up. We got issues.
I have its little brother, the Beacon.
All right.
Okay.
Another question we got from the community here is the indicator that tells you when the enemy hero is behind you. What were your guys' thought process behind that?
So that was put in before I was there, so I don't know. But I would say generally, it's giving people info. Like, it's tough in a 3D space. I think there's some games that do that super well. I also would say that there's going to be some like nice little quality of life things that should be able to improve your ability to be able to look around you when you end up going through an EA. So just make sure you mess around with some of that stuff. So we'll continue to just try and improve it. But it's like information in a 3D space is super important in that regard. I think it's also something that we can like talk about. There's no backpedal penalty. So just moving straight backwards, right? Like, you don't need to actually, like, you don't have to run straight forward to end up going all the way fast. Like, you can just backpedal away from people to dodge skill shots, right? You don't have to physically turn your camera.
That's trippy.
Because
more action.
Right.
Yeah.
It's just like, it takes you out of it, right? Like, you don't want to be spending 90% of the time you're playing the game facing away from your opponent with your back turned to him and your camera looking like down your own lane, right?
Yeah.
And like, there's some gameplay things that come with it, but at the end of the day, it's just like, it's more intuitive for people to just back up, right?
And fight back, or have a chance at surviving, or whatever the case is.
Yeah. Rather than just going like slowly moving away from like a Chimera, Rampage, or Richter who's just eating your face, right? Like, come
on. No, I completely agree. And when it comes to the indicator that's on the screen letting you know that person's in that area, I think it gives you a little bit more of the ability of League of Legends, right? When League of Legends, you have that top-down feel, you have this huge area that you're able to see around you, right? And you can see when somebody enters that area. With a third person MOBA, you don't have that ability to see anybody enter that area, right? Just because you see that little bubble on your screen, that doesn't tell you exactly how close they are, right? So you have time you don't know how much time you have to react, but you do have time to turn around, like, hopefully I can do something, right? So I'm okay with it being there. But again, I'm a bronze gamer, so anything that can help me, do a little bit better is going to help me. So I'm all about it. But I understand the question, but I'm okay with it.
Yeah, I think it's just more accessible info. I think one of the design challenges to think about, and this also goes with the minion health bar turning red once in the last hit window, right? Is just availability of information. In League and Dota, you can physically click on a creep, you can see its health. They have 0 armor, so whatever your basic attack damage is, it always does 100% of that to it. You can see when it goes into a last hit threshold. When I tell people who are learning how to last hit in League, I say click on the creep, wait until it's underneath the threshold, then right click on it, right? Or just attack move onto it, technically, right? Depending on how you have it bound. But that's what I do. In Predecessor / Paragon / Smite and all of these other third-person MOBAs, when you're actually in the game, you're not going to click on it, right? And you're not going to have these floating numbers above every single creep the entire time, because otherwise all you're going to see the entire time is just going to be floating numbers and your damage pops coming off of them. And then it's like, is your damage pop floating on top of the health bar number? And like, what does that look like? And nothing's going to end up being readable. And it's just trying to it's how do you solve those issues? And I think so far we've done a pretty good job at it. And we're going to get, if there's things you guys think that we need to improve on, or like little quality of life things like that, just give us the feedback. We'll see what we can do to keep implementing it. But as I said, like, our goal is to make sure the foundation of the game, when you move around, all of that feels good and plays good. And I think we've hit a pretty good mark with that.
All right. And another question from Baxter is, are games going to shut down if someone DCs for like half of the game because people trolling or decline surrenders or whatever? What are you guys' way of going, combating against, DCs and AFKers and stuff like that?
If people are AFK, they won't end up receiving any of the like experience and rewards that ends up coming through. Once that does end up getting tracked, we'll have all of that going through. But one of the biggest things is currently, like, no, we don't have those protections going in, just because like server side and the tech that comes with actually shutting down a server and detecting that information. League ended up getting their remake feature and their lever detection and all that in like 7 years after. Like, I don't want to quote 100% when that came in, but obviously we want it sooner than that. But I will also say that if you are down a man and somebody's not playing, if the other team knows what they're doing, I don't think you'll end up getting stuck for long. But also, like, I again, if moving around and casting all of your things and like casting your spells feels good enough, hopefully playing a 4v5 isn't too miserable. But I know that being stuck in a losing match in a MOBA can just sometimes be a negative experience, right? Unfortunately, sometimes those things are going to end up happening. I'm a big proponent, though, like, as much as possible, just get those people out of the game. And I think having an initial EA paywall will help with some of that stuff, because going free to play right off of the bat also very much so helps with anybody who wants to make any random account and just go and troll into oblivion. It makes it very hard to take repeated action against people when it's free in that regard. But also, like we said, we'll be free to play eventually once we have like some more of those barriers in that regard.
Exactly.
Like, that's also something else that like comes into that consideration, right?
All right. And SAQR asked a question that I'd love to hear the answer to, and I don't think you have the answer, and I can't wait until the answer does get answered. The question does get answered. When do you guys plan on changing the item art? So the item art, to me, the way I've always described it, anybody that's asked about it, it looks like something from a PlayStation 2 game. All right. It literally looks like it's that outdated. So I know it's just a placeholder. I know it's not your guys' item art. So any ideas when that is being replaced?
I can't give a deadline on it. It's something we're looking into, is obviously always making the game look prettier. I do know we've hired a boatload of artists, between character artists and just regular artists, over just since the time I've been there. The numbers, I actually don't know the exact number. That's at least to show you how many. But we're just looking to improve in that regard. Like, we're always looking to improve. Like, you can give us the feedback, but it's on the list.
That's a lot of numbers, a lot of guys that they hired, or a lot of people they hired for that. Because for being a stats guy, he can't remember the number of people they hired. Like I think that says a lot. And then Hank, I have one more question. Have they talked about Pred's matchmaking priorities or sizes? Prioritizes sizes. Party
Like solo going versus solo, 5-stack versus 5-stack, etc.
Sorry, I was having a hard time reading that one. My bad. So yeah.
All right, so I'm not the best when it comes to the actual MMR formula, and I don't want to 100% speak to it. But there's considerations for some of those things that we'll end up going through and we'll be able to implement. But like how defined that ends up being, we'll have to look at the data and go through. We have a lot of levers we can end up pulling. But we're also working with our backend server team, which they wrote a blog about way before I even joined them, to increase the number of things we're able to do as well, right? Like, so if we don't have the levers for being able to like kind of implement the right matchmaking tools that we end up needing to do, we can then go to our server team and be like, hey, we need this to be able to be accounted. We need this type of thing. And as soon as we go out in the wild and we're able to pull that data, we'll be able to then action on it. And again, we have 2 people who are way smarter than me working on that service and have just been plowing away on the MMR stuff. So
now, let me ask you, whenever early access comes, let's just say the day is here, right? We're starting. What's the first character you're picking and why?
Oof. Honestly, it depends because I'll probably just fill. So
What a humble guy.
I'll probably just like fill and let my team kind of like play what they want to play. I'll probably default down to a little bit of Grux off of the start, just because I think he feels really solid and is a lot of fun. And I also think that you can just run him in any of the positions if you really want to and you try hard enough. So there's a lot of just fun things you can do with him. So I like being Rhino, dude. I like running people down. I personally have a soft spot for Gadget. Like I just played the ever living ton of Gadget. Just seeing like what you can really do with her, and I think there's some really fun opportunities that people will be able to pull off in some sick plays with her.
I want to see you play Grux ADC.
Hey,
Right.
what you wish for.
Bruh, hey, the moment this man said in any role if you try hard enough, that's what I thought about. I was like, I'm willing to pay money to see you do Grux ADC against a competent team. Let's not even say like crazy, right? Like that's we
Not against me is what he's saying.
Well, I mean, in that regard, he's less of a carry and more of just kind of like an anti-carry, right? And you just
Anti-carry,
kind of like, you just dump your whole kit on them and pray they die over and over again.
They can't get close enough.
Yeah, it's like old Urgot in League, right? It's just like, oh, you want to try and farm? No. Here's a harpoon.
All right. So apparently, Windu's favorite mod and Seismic asked the same question. And that is, can you ask if the stats of the previous matches up until progression gets added will be carried over, or if they're tracking stats after implementation, if you know?
One second, let me find the question in chat.
I got a question. Who's my favorite mod?
You read the name, it's obviously a Star Wars name.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Yeah, the one from Boba. I don't think we're doing like, I think there'll be potentially some kind of retroactive stuff, but I don't want to confirm what'll end up going through there.
Right.
Just because I know initially we've said just absolutely no progression. I don't know like what we're actually capable of going back and 100% tracking, so I don't want to end up promising anything. So like once you end up having an update on what info will be there, like we'll be shouting that stuff from the rooftops, right? I think another thing to just also consider too, I know a lot of people have been like, oh, they've been radio silent this entire time. Like once we're live and into the game, and as you can see, just kind of like the past couple of weeks, that hasn't really been the case. We've been talking a whole lot. If you guys have been just like looking at following the right channels, right? Like we've had the FAQ on the subreddit. We've given a ton of info. We've been hanging out in just like our regular Discord, chatting with people. Blood ended up going on the stream. I'm hanging out with you guys here on the Predcast. So
All right.
Spicy, Brian. We appreciate you being here.
Speaking of frequently asked questions, in the Discord, some of these are broken up with different colors. Is there a reason for that?
Oh, I don't know.
Okay, I didn't know if there was like, I'm like, all right, we got five.
I filled those. I filled
four
those
of them
out.
that are green. Like I'm like,
No,
all
I
right,
filled those
like,
out on a different sheet and was like replying with all that. I don't know. Those go through a bunch of different formatting, all of that. By the time it gets to Discord, like I don't
Gotcha.
know.
Just random ass colors came through.
Maybe at some point they were color coordinated for some reason, but I don't know.
I'm like, is this like, hey, these are the first things we're gonna be working on? I don't know, but
Nah.
I'm sure someone will crack the code if
Yeah,
they look
I'm
hard
sure
enough.
there's something there, but maybe not.
Now, do we know?
Boba says they're just being categorized in those. It's just a technically categorizing them. So if they were to do with early access gameplay or actual store questions or whatever, that's what I'm
Gotcha.
guessing.
That makes
That's
sense.
what I'm understanding.
Makes sense.
Seems to be the more sensical way of doing it. Like I said,
Yeah,
people,
right.
people who are way smarter than me organize all
Yeah.
that. I just talk to the gameplay and all that stuff.
You're not the only one. That's why I ask the questions, because I don't know the answer.
Nailed it.
So, out of curiosity, now the game going into early access, is there anything special that people have to do? Do they have to add it to their wish list? And can they pre-download? Any specific steps that they need to follow that we know of so far? Anything like that?
I mean, adding it to the wish list is always helpful for just going through that. We'll be on both EGS, Epic Game Store, and Steam. Whichever you prefer, honestly. Like, I know some people don't like EGS. I like it just because they give me free games all the time, which is great. I highly recommend
Fair.
downloading it just for that. I mean, it'd be worst case scenario, you check the free game. If you don't like it, you don't click the button to get the free game.
I got the entire Batman Arkham out of that, so I totally feel you.
BioShock and Civ 6 for free, and I'm like, you're just giving me this? Are you serious? But yeah, that's just like helpless shill in that regard. If like, it'll be on Steam. I don't know what pre-download situation is because they've changed like a bunch of their rules and stuff where like apparently you can't have products up for sale yet. That I don't know. It'll be up there sometime on Thursday. The download like isn't that large, but I also know that for some people, internet can end up being an issue. I think it's around 8 to 10 gigs most of the time. So
Wow.
just be aware of whatever it is. It's not too bad if you have super fast internet.
amazing.
Fine. If your internet's super slow, might take like a little bit going through. But yeah,
Hey, man.
I would say if you plan on getting it, get it within the first 2 weeks. It'll be 50% off during that time. $10, $20, $40. The $40 pack at 50% off is super monetary efficient. I know there aren't any coins or anything going through now, but eventually you're going to have things to spend them on, and I think it'll end up being valuable down the line.
Yeah, worth mentioning.
I think it, good.
Sorry to cut you off. I was going to say worth mentioning on the Epic Store, the pricing is also progressive. So if you do get the $10 one, and then a couple of days later you want to upgrade, the Steam gives you that option while the Epic Game Store does not. You will have to buy the full option outright. So worth mentioning out there for those individuals that are
Gives you
considering.
the option. Epic gives you the option. But
Sorry,
Steam doesn't.
sorry. Steam gives you the option. Epic does not.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, cool. I
Yeah.
didn't know that.
Yeah. So if you go into the Epic Game Store and you get the $10 and then you want to upgrade, now you ended up paying 50, the 10 plus the 40, for example. Where on Steam, it gets discounted from the next purchase because it automatically takes that into consideration.
Yeah, so I've been telling my community to get it from, if you're questioning it, right? If you know you want the game, get it from either whatever one you want to grab it from, right? But if you're questioning it, grab the $10 one from Steam, and if you enjoy it, upgrade to what you want to upgrade to. Keep it at $10, keep it there, or upgrade and go farther. That's what I've been telling my community. Like, go from there.
You also don't have to upgrade. I'm a huge proponent. Like I'm a big thing. Like if you don't want to pay and you don't want to end up buying in, you don't have to. If you can wait, we will end up being free to play at some point. We'll go through, and by the time we're free to play, there'll be a shit ton more systems, like a bunch of more content going through there, and you are more than welcome to wait towards that time. If you
6 to 12 months.
in, like as I ended up talking about kind of right at the start, I think if you just look at the per hero price and going through, it's super cost efficient in that regard. It gets down to like about 50 cents a hero, a little bit less than that once you get through to the $10 for all 25. And if you look at League, Smite, I mean, with the exception of Dota, who just gives you all of them like right out of the bat, and monetizes in much more aggressive in different ways, that is like way below the norm in that regard. But also like if you really want to play the game and you don't end up having $10, people are going to be giving away codes. Like we're going to be giving codes away to our content creators. We'll be giving away codes on our Twitter. Like we'll have a ton of codes and we'll be able to get it out there. You'll be able to find one in some way, shape, or form.
So maybe the Predcast will have some codes to give away to you guys if you're staying tuned.
That'll be
spicy.
Yeah, no, and that's the reason I would say that the only reason I would upgrade, me personally, right, is because the way I understand it and the way I think I've read in the frequently asked questions, or maybe just me talking to some people that I've talked to, is the skins that are in those kits, those are exclusive. Like if you bought that legendary pack and you got those skins, like that's the only way you're gonna get those skins.
Yep.
So that's like if you're that into it. If you're what do they call those people, whales, like the people that want to have everything, right? If you're that situation, like, hey, maybe it's not a game you want to play, get the $10 one, try it out. If you like it and you're a whale, upgrade. That's why I say go to Steam and do it that way instead. Just save yourself that much money, than doing it in Epic Game Store. But if you're gonna game no matter what, you just whatever one I got them both downloaded on my PC, so I'm not that anti-Epic guy like some of these people are because of the F that we talked about earlier. So.
No, like I said, I know how that goes. And I mean, it's just funny when you end up saying whale and $40 in the same sentence as somebody who grinded Diablo Immortal for a while there, and whale meant you were spending like 40K. I was like, oh. But no, I understand the vibe in that regard. And I know cosmetics mean a lot to some people. And I honestly think that some of those skins
wins game,
are
then.
Really cool. Like I'm a big fan of that Grux skin. But I've also said, like at my core, like I really don't care about skins or cosmetics in any game. Like if for me, if the game is gray box the game and it's two gray boxes smashing into each other, but you make it really entertaining and there's really good mechanics and there's some kind of depth there. Like I don't care if you have a yellow star while I have a gray box, as long as the mechanics are still the exact same that go through. Like I will play gray box the game and have no issue going through if the core gameplay is good. And again, I know I'm probably on the outside looking in that regard, because some people like the really ornate and the really dope skins and they look incredibly different. I lean more towards like I like ones that are just different enough, but don't change the model to the point where like they're unrecognizable, right? So like I'm a big fan. Like if Rampage is running at you, you should always know Rampage is running at you, right? And I think there is like even some of the epic ones I think don't necessarily do a great job at that.
Like the Rock Rampage, would that be a good example?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think he's like kind of like right on the line. Actually, there was a hero. I got to like make a hero on my own time while I was working at Epic, just as like a side project, and I used that. Hello, kitty. I used that Rampage skin as a basis for it. His name was Shard, but I was like, oh, this looks different enough where it's just like if this guy was running at you, like maybe you would think it's a different hero, right?
I got you.
SAQR asks the jungle camps. Referencing the Kalari video, the Kalari video, and you go into jungle, and they're like, it seems like the jungle camps don't do enough damage to you. What is the reasoning behind this?
I would say that Kalari video, she got super fed and built.
No, this is early game. We're talking about early.
Oh, it's an early game.
Early game goes in and don't do anything.
Your first clear. Like if you are utilizing your slay on the camp and you use both of your daggers in your single target and you get to your red, you're not going to take a ton of damage on your first clear because you have your red buff, which is giving you extra damage on hit. It's giving you extra life burning through. And Kalari's first clear is pretty healthy. If you won, because if the first clear is too punishing, what an assassin is going to get out of her first clear, and then what is she going to do? She's going to be at half HP and then going to recall and be behind and not get a gank off. So that's like kind of tough in that regard. But if you don't end up getting a successful gank or you just go to power clear, that second rotation, if you're not buying a clear item, is not so good. Right. And then all of a sudden, if you end up falling behind and you then have a Grux or a Fang Mao running into your jungle and you get caught on one of those camps, you're just gonna die, right? So it's just like kind of ensuring that, hey, if that first clear is way too painful, let's get them out of there. But like realistically, Kallari is going to be played in the jungle 90% of the time, probably with her pick rate. Like honestly, I think she survives pretty well in offlane, and there's a couple of mid lane matchups that are pretty interesting for her. But like if you can't healthily make it through that first jungle clear, the character is just unnecessarily punishing. However, now if you healthily make it through the first jungle clear, but maybe Grux and Feng Mao are a little bit quicker to the side and just a little bit healthier, right? You now have to make take advantage of your stealth, your slight extra mobility with your double jump, your range on the daggers, and your like ambush potential to actually like get on top of somebody and turn it. And it's just ensuring that there's like a balance in that regard. But I will say, if you think that the Kallari clear ends up being I would just play it a couple times once it's out, because I promise you, in a game where the first couple of ganks don't go so well, you're probably not going to be saying the same thing.
Yeah, and I think they're referring to mainly just the red camp. Because, for example, like I just played it a couple times on here on stream, and you see her smite the camp, throw 4 daggers at the camp, and then by the time she kills the camp, she levels up, and she's only maybe lost like 100 HP. Now, it is worth mentioning, like the crest, for example, that was chosen. It is worth mentioning that the smite was activated. There's a lot of little things in there that helped Kallari regen. If you actually, and I'll put this full screen for everybody to look at, as she's hitting the camp, she's actively regenning. So there is quite a little bit that actually goes into it, as opposed to just, hey, Kallari's tanky or the tanks are easy. Because I will say, I've been a solo laner that shoved my lane a little bit too strong early and decided, even in the past and predecessor, right, that decided I'm gonna steal a jungle camp and be like, all right, hold on, I need to get the fuck out of this jungle, bro. Like, I made a grave mistake. These jungle camps are not as easy. So I could probably bet quite a bit that starting smite and the crest that the Kallari chose is a big factor. Like her crest right now that she's got equipped, it says damage or kill on enemy target restores health. So there's quite a bit that goes into it. It's not just the fact that, you know, like the camps are easier, stuff like that. Kallari easily could have chosen a different crest. Kallari easily could have started with a different item to do less damage, for example, and that shit might have gone way different, even if it was just for the red buff.
Yeah, and you'll also notice too, the Kallari, particularly in this clip, like she's doing a good job of walking backwards each time. So you'll notice how it's very rare for each one of the buffs to actually stand in place and do that multiple auto chain. That will also limit the amount of damage. So one of the things to consider, and this is kind of a new player versus experienced player thing, you have to balance for the fact that some players are just going to stand there and hit the damn camp, right? And if you just stand there the entire time and the camp doesn't have to walk animation, doesn't have to do any kind of travel whatsoever, right, and it just gets to wail on you the entire time, it's going to do more damage than if you walk back all the way through. Now again, we call those chimera mains. Right, yeah, minus Chimera, because you just sit there and unga bunga health regen. But then everyone else, right, actually has to kind of think for a little bit to min-max going through there. But again, like on a game design side, like, yeah, you can make jungle camps walk a lot faster and end up having this longer leash range, but then it's kind of just like these weird interactions and it doesn't look as good. So this is kind of like a halfway point where, like, yes, there is some skill expression in being able to kite the camps and take them in a circle and not take as much damage, but also like brand new players end up coming in and they play a Chimera or a Grux or a Rampage or a jungler with natural regen who is like I don't want to say lower skill difficulty, because I think they all have very high skill expression now in Predecessor, but is like more naturally suited for the jungle, like has some of that innate sustain. They won't just get their ass whooped by jungle camps the first time they go and play the role, and then they'll just be like, screw this, I'm out, right? I think our jungle is moderately accessible for newer players compared to Dota, which I don't do. Good luck with Dota's jungle, and then Smite and League. Like League just did a huge pass this season to actually make their jungle much safer and much more accessible after 12 years of now having the game out. So I think we're actually starting at a lot better core, particularly because of how those first clear interactions end up working.
Yeah, and I'm 100% with a EF6 in the chat. People will find out real fucking quick how much the macro actually matters, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like you'll be in a game, you'll be lazy, you know, like just lazy clearing this and that. You lose a little bit too much health, etc. But then you find yourself like, shit, I'm a little low for this team fight that's popping up. Or it's like, damn, my rotation's kind of off, or my CS is off, just because I decided to sit there and like, fuck it, I'm just smacking 1 minion the whole time and getting chunked down. So, I mean, people will figure it out. And with the matchmaking that's in place, hopefully the skill level in between, as that bell curve starts to kind of, you know, even out, you'll be able to see, I guess you could say, like equal type players, equal skill level type players in your lobbies. So there's a good chance if you do that, you're probably going to go up against a jungler that does that too. I'm gonna be real with you. So well, there's that.
The one thing we can take from literally just sitting here talking to Sundown is, if you guys haven't heard yet, they want the feedback, right? So if jungle clearing is that easy, if jungle clearing is, you know, if it's just no issues in jungle at all, like, you know, give them the feedback, let them know, because they will make the changes. You know, they'll look at the data and go through and make sure that that's how it's actually going, and then they'll make changes accordingly. So, I mean, this is just one video that we've all got to see, and that literally that is the feel that you look at it like, holy cow, like, all right. Me personally, I'm basing this off of playing Fault. I know going into playing Fault, you go in the jungle, you clear, you get one side of the jungle, you clear that. All right, now you have a choice to make. You have enough health that you can go gank, or you go to the other side of the jungle and then you do something there, and then you hit the back. Right, that's really what you got to do. Like, that's the way it was in Fault. So it's a little bit different here. It's like, all right, well, this person you didn't lose health at all. Like, you got tickled the whole time. Like, what's going on? Like, all right, and then now that breaking it down, the crest and everything else added to it. All right, a little more explanation to it, a little more understanding. All right, we'll have to see how the game plays once December 1st drops, and and what's the time that's dropping, Sundown?
Oh, that's weird. I don't think that's been mentioned yet. That was close. Though. Don't worry. I've lived most of my life under an NDA. It'll be ready. It'll be ready. That I'm sure we'll give some kind of info. But
hey, you guys saw I tried. All right, I did my best.
It was a good try. What was that? Is that Casino Royale at the start where he tells them, "Stop touching your bloody ear"? Right?
Oh, true. Over by the snake pit or whatever. Yeah. Okay. True.
This dude gets tossed into it. God, I love that movie.
Right?
Amen. # leak. Anyway, so
I tried, guys. I tried.
But yeah, man, I will say we're getting here. We're already an hour and a half deep. We're getting here towards the end of it. We've been here for quite a bit. Now, we did bring this up a couple times. I even showed it on the stream. There was a very in-depth, thorough question and answer that was posted on the Reddit in its own. Let us know if you guys would like us to go into those in detail. I know for a fact that, one of the podcasts that we went over, Strangers podcast, they went in very great detail as to most of those questions. For the minions, also with Mangoose, has gone into quite a bit of detail with a lot of those. So I didn't necessarily want to just kind of sit here and just read the list. I wanted it to be a little bit more organic. We'll just sit here and chat and stuff like that. But we appreciate everybody that's been tuning through. We appreciate all the questions. Hope you guys enjoy this sort of format and everything. What we're going to do now is, in the same order we introduced ourselves, give a little bit of love to the community. Give them how are we going to call it? Give them a little word of advice going into EA. What from people that are in this chat that may or may not have tried this game already. Give them a little bit of advice as far as what should they do going into EA, and then throw in your plugs.
So I'll start and I'll say, just have fun, play the game, give us whatever feedback you want, play as much as you want, play as little as you want. Like, if you don't want to end up playing it at all, cool. But I promise you, we'll all be playing it. We'll be taking all the feedback that ends up coming through, and enjoy yourself. If you think it's a little overwhelming and the item system is a lot, please go ahead, try the recommended builds that are in there. There will be recommended builds. And the cool thing about the recommended builds is they're adaptive based off of what hero and which position you're picking. So let's just say you pick howitzer mid lane compared to howitzer support. Well, it will actually give you a recommended build that is best best for howitzer mid lane compared to howitzer support, right? So you can end up just following the items. If you want to just kind of turn your brain off, learn the characters for the first start, the item system feels like it's a lot, you can end up doing that. I promise you, like, it's not going to be the absolute min-max best of the best thing for all the situations, but you'll be able to just play the game. And other than that, be nice to each other. There's going to be a different range of skill. There's going to be people who haven't dusted their fingers off in a very long time and are just coming back because they didn't play any other MOBAs other than that. And if somebody is being mean, go ahead, just like toss a report on them. And there is a mute function in there, so you can just mute some of those bad actors as well. But try and be as nice, have fun. Otherwise, my name is Sund0wn. You can follow me on everything. It's the exact same time. My branding is very consistent. The O is a 0. And I appreciate you guys. Thank you for having me on here. This has been awesome, and I appreciate all that you guys do.
Appreciate you coming on, man. Thank you.
Yes, definitely.
And for those of you that didn't know, Medkit didn't even know that this man was going to show up. We kept that shit from him. Like, homeboy was excited as hell. He was like, let's fucking go.
I recognize him because of so when I do my videos, I go into a lot of research and I spend a lot of time editing it. So I was doing a video on Iggy and Scorch because one of the pre-alpha trailers for Pred has Iggy and Scorch in it. So I was like, that's a forgotten hero. Let me make a video about Iggy and Scorch. And when I was looking through some of the old files, I saw Sund0wn there talking about Iggy and Scorch when that hero was introduced. So then I was like, holy crap, this guy tested Iggy and Scorch a lot and loved him in offlane. Oh, by the way, Sund0wn, I got a question for you. Which version of Iggy is your preference? Are you team Legacy or are you team Monolith? Team V42. Me personally, I'm team Legacy Iggy.
Give me Legacy Iggy, but give me with Monolith visuals. So I don't want the AoE turret. Like, give me all of give me the visuals that come with it, but like give me some of the old functionality. Like that's the camp that like I live in. I didn't play a ton of new Iggy. I played a lot of old Iggy. So
hell yeah.
This man said I'm gonna ult and push you back. Okay, I got you. I dig it.
Nice little Lee Sin kick on Flame Breath. Come on.
Right.
That kill was so much fun.
But yeah, Medkit, so your piece of advice going into the early access for the community, and then throw your plugs in there, bro.
My piece of advice, squad up, have fun, just enjoy yourselves. It's a good time. Predecessor is just literally right around the corner. Just have fun, and I make Pred content. I make videos about Predecessor. Check out my YouTube channel. Follow me on Twitter, and I'll be live streaming Predecessor on the 1st.
Spicy.
On what, live stream on YouTube or Twitch or what?
YouTube.
Okay. All right. My advice to the community: have fun. Let's all go out there and have fun. That's the biggest thing, right? We're gonna have a blast playing the game. And then when you feel like you've been playing the game too much, Saturday at 8 o'clock, Michigan plays Purdue for the Big Ten championship. So let's get that going, all right? Because go blue, all right? We're gonna win the Big Ten championship. Then we're going to the college football playoffs, all right? And then I'll let you know those times when we come back to the next Predcast. And I'm excited for December 1st, guys. I cannot wait. Oh my gosh. Whew. All right. But let's just have fun. All right, let's just have a blast. And if you do have that troll that wants to be a troll, there is a report function. Just report them, like Sund0wn said. Let's go. Let's get the trolls out of here. Let's have a good time. And let's have a blast. Thank you all for coming and hanging out. You can see me live streaming on Twitch, this channel you're watching right now. If you're watching it live, if you're not watching it live and you're watching the Windows YouTube channel, because that's where this gets posted later on, you can catch me on the Beta Wolverines Twitch.tv, and also follow me on Twitter. Because that's where I post a lot of my shit too as well. All right.
Spicy. And
Hey guys.
hold on, bro. I gotta say my eye. Where you going, bro?
Bro.
All right, no, you're chilling. But no, so my personal piece of advice, and some of you might have already kind of figured this out through some of the gameplay that we've seen. my advice is going to be, don't turn off that auto buy for the first couple matches, bruh. I'm going to be honest with you. You don't want to do that. Like, if you look at some of these items that get brought up in some of this gameplay, some shit's changed. Some shit's changed, bro.
A lot has changed. A lot has changed.
That would see, and that's what I'm saying. Like, I'm like, yo, like you don't want to be that guy that goes in there and it's like, I know what the fuck I'm doing, and then you're like, I don't know what happened, guys. I just lost. I can't tell you what it is. So I strongly recommend at least use it for a match or two, right, until you get a little bit more accustomed to items and such. And honestly, besides that, guys, just play with homies. Play with homies. We all know that playing by yourself is lonely. Sometimes we got to do it. It's a thing, but try to squad up, try to duo, try to, you know, get viewer games if you're a content creator and stuff. One of the coolest part about games like this is being able to show it to others, how much fun it's going to be, the interactions, the possibilities behind it. Especially if you're more skilled than the average person, try to guide others through it, because hey man, we were all MOBA newbies at one point, and that's a rough fucking life. That shit is not easy. But thank you everybody that stopped by. I, again, am Windu, also known as Windu the Mace. You guys can literally follow me, Windu the Mace, on every single social. This video will go live technically tomorrow is where we're going to push it towards at noon. But yeah, we're starting to do these videos every single week. We're super excited for Predecessor to be coming around the corner. And
so
hell yeah.
And at the end of the day, guys, we appreciate your support. Thank you so much for everything. As you guys see with the live chat, or whether it be after the fact, we take it into consideration. And if we take it into consideration, there's a good chance that Predecessor staff are also going to take everything that you guys say into consideration, messages and stuff. So make sure that you guys leave a comment, leaving your thoughts. They do read through those, whether it be on YouTube or etc. But as always, we'll catch you on the next one. Peace.
Peace.
Peace. Thank you, guys.